So thank you for coming back for another PvP 101.
No problem. I really enjoy it. Really enjoy, being able to help out, PvP players and any players in general who are just excited about trying, at least getting into PvP.
Yeah. Okay, so my homework way back when in
It's a while ago.
December.
Yeah.
Mid-December.
Last year.
Oh my gosh. It's been last year because, the last year jokes never get old.
No, of course not.
Was to play around in Unranked and just kind of get a feel for that. So I did that. It hurt, but it was really, really fun.
Yeah. Awesome.
I had a good time, started getting a feel for different classes. I'm kind of torn between, okay, I need to pick a class and stick with it, or I can keep hopping back and forth between classes and get sort of maybe a little bit mediocre at all of them. I'm still trying to decide what I'm comfortable with.
Well, I think the other thing that really helps too is the new PvP dailies.
Yes.
Where it's like incentivizing you to play a couple different classes.
I get presents.
Yeah, you get presents. Yeah, no, I think it's really good too because it gives a lot of players who maybe haven't gone out and tried other classes to actually go out and play different, try a little bit of everything, because you'd be surprised sometimes when you play something, you're like, wow, that was actually a lot of fun. I kind of want to keep playing that.
Yeah.
It also gives you a ton of insight as well into that's why he's doing that. That's what that skill does. That's what that trait does that I'm seeing that's doing this. It's really interesting when you actually go play other classes you had problems with. You start seeing what they're doing, and one, you can either continue playing that class because you like it, or you figure a way to actually play against that class.
Yeah, and the other thing that I was finding with that, like I went and played as a guardian. I actually rolled a guardian on my other account just to play with her, and started using these skills, and I was recognizing what I was seeing and saying, I know how to use this because I've been on the receiving end of it. So that was really helpful.
No, yeah, definitely. And I think that's a big part of it is just playing. And when you see it, all of a sudden, everything starts kind of clicking together the more you play, and it just becomes easier and easier as you go along.
Yeah, it was really gratifying. So the thing that I kept encountering in PvP was other players.
That's interesting.
It was weird. It was weird.
It's a little weird.
Yeah, there were just these people there. And that kind of leads to what we're going to talk about today, which is the player culture in PvP, because it's a little bit different than PvE. Because it turns out the NPCs don't sass you.
That's true.
Not as much,
true.
or if they do, they sass you the same way over and over and over.
They also don't post on the forums and complain, which is really nice, because I have 100 Blades enough NPCs that they were like, please, they should have been like, okay, that's enough. We don't get out of the way, we know.
They're going, look, Hugh, I'm tethered, okay?
That's enough. That's enough, Hugh.
It's not my fault.
But yeah, I think one of the biggest things that newer players, when they come in, especially because a lot of the players we see who play Guild Wars 2 are MMO players who have probably traditionally played a lot of MMOs or RPGs, which don't usually go into PvP. You know what I mean? Because it's usually a lot of other games. It's different than our PvP, where it's not structured. You have to start. You can actually just go in there and play right at the beginning of the game. Whereas other times you grind for gear and do other things, and all other facets of PvP. So a lot of times this is actually the first experience to PvP that a lot of players are experiencing. So they just don't understand the culture. Like a good example was when we were talking.
Are you going to tell me?
Yeah. So another person I was talking to who may or may not have been Rubi.
Don't tell this story. Oh my gosh.
She was talking to me, and
I can't believe you're doing this.
She's like, yeah, Hugh, I don't understand when I'm having like kind of a bad matchup or I'm playing in custom arenas. I don't understand what I could do to maybe, should I switch teams? Should I go to spectator, let that person leave? If someone's picking on me who's really, really good.
Oh, good. That's not the story I thought you were going to tell.
Oh, yeah.
Carry on.
And I was like, well, yeah, you just server swap. You just server swap to a different server and just play, find maybe another match of players that are maybe a little more your skill level. And she's like, okay, what's a server swap?
Yeah, I just went, wait, what now?
Yeah, and I've played like Counter-Strike and all these other games that have TF2 and all these games where you're just used to server swapping. You're like, this server is I'm either dominating or I'm losing really bad because they have a competitive team. You guys server swap, and it was just interesting because I forgot. I was like, man, some of these players probably don't know that that's even a possibility.
Right.
And so it's interesting. I was like, man, I really need to make sure I keep the mindset when I'm talking on these things of. Not to talk to you like you're ignorant or anything like that. It's more of just there's a knowledge that a lot of players just don't have because they haven't played PvP before, and we want to make sure that we can help bridge that gap.
Right, and that's kind of why we're doing PvP 101 in the first place, because you may know the game pretty well. I mean, like I do. I could
definitely
talk about Living World all day long and PvE, but when I go into PvP and Hugh says server swap, I go,
Yeah. It is very interesting to me. It's very interesting.
Yeah. So speaking of server swapping, we were talking about just different experiences that I was having, and I think we were talking about how I went in there and I was like, I'm flailing around, I'm in unranked, and I'm basically just running around screaming, and at one point just banging on the keys because I had forgotten what everything does.
Yeah, of course.
But at that point, my goal was to just kind of learn the maps, and that's okay. That's cool. But I got murdered again and stomped by somebody that was way, way higher rank. And I was talking to you about this later. And I was like, okay, I feel like I'm getting farmed. And there were 2 points that and I will let you elaborate on this, was A, recognize the situation because I may not be actually getting farmed. But if I am getting farmed, here's what to do about it. So.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing you can do is if sometimes there's going to be players with just higher skill level or just builds in general that can just kind of counter your build or beat your build or whatever. Talking to your team, communicating that and saying, hey guys, I really need help with this. This person is countering my build or whatnot, or assessing the situation and going somewhere else. For instance, if you're running a build that's really good at bunkering and there's a specific build that's a bunker breaker, you can ask for someone and survive long enough to ask for assistance. Communication is really the biggest part of PvP that a lot of people don't don't quite understand and take advantage of when playing PvP as their first PvP game. Because in PvE, you can communicate with players, but you're pretty self-sufficient, especially in specific PvE instances. But in PvP, it's really about the team. It's a team-based game. So you got to rely on your team, and communication is really, really important. What was another situation that I came up with just to make sure I hit all those things?
Yeah, it was just excessive trash talking, I think, was the other thing that we really, really super hit on.
Oh, yes. So I guess we can talk about... We
will decline to give examples.
Yeah. A lot of times what will happen when you're playing against these types of players is they will use any way to try to get a reaction out of you or make you less helpful to your actual team, maybe, or break down your communication with your team, stuff of that nature.
And they're just screaming at you, kill the Lord, kill the Lord, kill the Lord.
Yeah. And so, again, it kind of goes with, I think what we're going to touch on next is kind of like the types of players you'll encounter in actual PvP.
Yeah.
Which is, like, for instance, the first one that I think everybody kind of encounters is like the tryhard, right? The guy who's a girl who's in there who's like, I want to win, I always want to win, and that's why unranked is a great place because it's kind of like a place where the tryhards kind of stay away from most of the time. They'll go to ranked and whatnot, but there are some people out there. I mean, everybody wants to win. No one wants to lose.
Yeah, and when you're in PvP, you have these people who are going to do anything they need to win.
Yes. And so if they see you as a newer player or someone not as skilled as them, they will immediately assume or start saying things they probably shouldn't say to you. And the biggest thing you can do to minimize this is communicate. Hey guys, I'm going to go and do this. I'm going to do this, and if I need help, I'm going to call for it, and I'm always going to be reactive. If I see someone coming to me, hey, one person coming to me, fight me on this point, right?
Right.
So that way they know, like, hey, I need to come and help this person or whatnot. Communication, really important against those types of players. And then you have one of my favorites, the YOLO swags. The YOLO swags, my favorite is they will come and they won't communicate. They're just gonna go in. Their job is to kill as much as possible. They're gonna find the weakest link and just go and kill everything. And the best thing you do with them, communicate as much as you can, and don't fall prey to some of the things they'll say, because they'll go in there and they'll be like, why didn't you help me? We could have won that. It's your fault that we're losing. It's like, hey man, let's just keep playing. I'm going to do this. I see you're doing that. Hey, keep it up. If you need support, let me know, right? Or let the team know so we can react to your play, right?
And it is incredibly hard not to just go back and and dish it right back out because, it's so infuriating.
Yes, and the biggest thing, even like the next level thing you can do, right, is if they get really, really bad, just block them, right? And then
we have an ignore function.
Yes, and I mean, honestly, you want to use that as a last resort. But if they're getting that belligerent, then yes, of course.
Yeah, don't get all excited and be like, I don't like the guy. I don't like the way that guy ran past me. And just going on the ignore list.
Yes, but another thing too is when you have friends, if you play with your friends and whatnot, because then you have fallback. You have players that you can go to. It's like, hey, I see this guy's kind of being that type of player. Let's do our best to try to help him and show him what we're here for the team and to win this match. Because a lot of times, if they see that the team is working together, they will kind of recess a little bit sometimes. And sometimes they're the really YOLO swags that just don't even care. But a lot of times playing as a team, you'll be surprised communication and playing as a team and showing people that you're not playing with that you want to play as a team will actually go very, very far in any PvP game.
Right. So practically speaking, let's talk really quick about server swapping.
Sure.
If you get into that situation, how do you do that?
Sure. So I would go here, but I think I can kind of just, well, you know what? Let's go there.
Yeah, go for it.
So I'm going to go to PvP, and I'm going to go into a PvP match, and I'm going to show you as a player, if you're, so let's say you're new and you want to start out in Practice Arena, because obviously Practice Arena is another great place as a newer player to play.
If you could win this match while you were there, that would be fantastic for me. Thanks, man.
So you see here in the options here, you can select blue team, spectate, and whatnot. But there's another option as well, which is you can actually go to play PvP, and you can go to game browser. And here is all the games in PvP, and you can see like on the top of the list, we usually populate it with the players. So if you're seeing, like, let's say I'm in whatever server I'm in right now, server 2, server 002. So what's going to happen is if I'm seeing, like, there's someone in here who's really good, he's kind of picking on a lot of people, or maybe a group of really good players who's coming here to practice builds and whatnot, that, you know what, I'm not having the best experience I can have. Look on here, open up, so you just go to the top, play PvP button. It's going to open up this little UI. Go to the game browser tab on here on the side. And then you can select a different server that you can see. Now, one, you can check your maps. So you're like, hey, I really wanted to practice on Kylo today. I'm going to select Kylo. So you select Kylo, double-click it, you go right into Kylo. And then you can look at and see kind of how the teams are looking and whatnot, and then select the actual team you want to be on. And this kind of helps you, like, this one right here, I probably wouldn't select this one as one, but what you can do is you can spectate, and you can look at, let's say, I play Guardian. How is this Guardian playing? And I can actually look here. But again, if I don't like this, highlight over here. Oh, no.
You can't go in there and help the blue team?
No.
Because
But you can go here, click the PvP button, and select another server that you want to try. Like I can go to, let's go Spirit Watch. And this will allow you...
Spirit Watch is fun.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This will allow you as a player, like, oh, okay, cool. This is a smaller match, 2v2. I'll jump here, play a little bit, much less high strung because it's not 5v5. And you can do this and kind of select your experience this way. And this is kind of like the nice, easy way to kind of get into that kind of groove of, okay, this isn't great for me. I'm not learning anything.
Right.
Let me switch to another server where I think I can learn. Right.
Yeah, I mostly just seem to be in this situation to feed this guy.
Yes. And you're not really learning a ton, right? Like if you want to know the maps, this is actually a good environment to go in. Like click a map, run around in it a little bit, with a couple guys fight a little bit, but just kind of learn the map a bit.
Yeah.
That's server swapping in a nutshell, which is, it's actually one of those things which I always completely forget. And,
yes, I'm a rabbit.
And but it's, you know what? I heard last night you played, right? Or was
we're going to talk about. That was 2 nights ago, but we'll talk. Yeah, we're going to talk about that in a couple minutes. We were talking about playing with friends.
Yeah, definitely.
Actually, we can do that now. We were. I gave Hugh some grief beforehand for not joining us, but it did work out very, very well. So John Corpeny and I were chatting about maybe playing some PvP, and he was like, "Yeah, we should do that sometime." And we could just do this tonight after we get home from work. So I logged in, and as soon as I logged in, he was like, "Hey, I'm here. Let's do this." So. We got together and pulled in Justin Odell, one of our server programmers,
server guy,
and one of my guild mates, and then John's guild leader. Remember when we did Adopt-A-Dev? Yeah, John is still in that guild and playing with them pretty regularly.
Yep.
So he pulled in his guild leader, and I had never met her before. And we went in there and we won the match. I was one of the 2 top scorers. I want to say I was the top scorer, but I didn't notice. Someone told me afterwards.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get too excited about that and then be wrong.
I mean that's a great kind of environment to play in when you play with friends like that.
Yeah.
Right? Like you can all rely on each other. You can communicate. You don't have to worry about any of the weirdness of maybe having another person who's going to be mean or going to not play with the team. It's a nice environment to go in.
The thing was about the end of that. The end came, we won the match, and the shield popped up, and it startled me because I was having so much fun playing that I didn't even realize we were coming close to the end of the match. And when it popped up, I was like, oh, are we done? Oh. That to me is the sign, okay, I'm doing something right because I am having an incredibly good time. But playing with, getting in there, playing with one friend and then a guildmate and a coworker, and I got to meet a new person. Thank you, Aggie. You were super, super fun. You got to meet somebody new, and we all went into the same Mumble channel. Yeah. And just being open to that experience and being willing to say, okay, I'm doing something right because I am having an incredibly good time. But playing with, getting in there, playing with one friend and then a guildmate and a coworker, and I got to meet a new person. You got to meet somebody new, and we all went into the same Mumble channel. Yeah. And just being open to that experience and being willing to say, okay, going to suck it up, and I'm going to go in there and I'm going to play a real match, because I've been doing, you know, a little bit here and there, but I've been playing with guildmates. They've been going easy on me.
Yeah.
This was my first like actual go in there, go full out. I did really well, and I had so much fun.
And that's really what we're trying to get at, is right, is get you into that point where you feel comfortable to go in there and play.
Oh, I wasn't comfortable at all, but I had fun.
Hey, one step at a time. One step at a time.
I was not very good.
Yeah.
But I was having fun, and I'm getting better.
Yeah, that's really all that matters. Is one,
Yeah.
you get a little bit better each time. If you make a mistake or something happens, you kind of learn from it, and you just keep going.
Yeah, it was great. It was really, really great. But I did have to boot myself out of that comfort zone and just, you know, hold my nose and jump off the high dive.
Excellent. Cool.
Yeah, so that's, you know, kind of look at the situation and see if what you're perceiving is what's actually happening, or if it's somebody that's maybe trying out a new build.
Yeah,
you know.
definitely.
Or if somebody's actually farming, now you know how to server swap and find a better situation for yourself.
Yep.
If you have a friend who PvPs and says, hey, come here and, you know, will you come hang out and maybe do a match with us?
Yeah.
Really, really be open to that, because I can honestly say that is the best PvP experience that I have had since we started doing this.
Yep.
And it's been months. So really be open to that.
It's always fun to play with friends, especially in PvP, because
Yeah.
it's such a much more fulfilling experience, in my opinion. Because I don't know, I've played PvP way too much in my day, but every time you play with a friend, you're always like, you always can talk about that experience together, and it's always different, right? It's like when you kill a boss, it's always so exciting. When you kill that boss, you're like, yes.
Oh my gosh,
it
it
feels
was
so good.
great.
But when you go and
So great.
when you fight someone and you win and you're rezzing your friend and he's getting you, it's just a different experience that a lot of players don't really see or get to experience in a lot of times. But PvP in our game is just so approachable. Once you get past that little barrier, it's really fun,
Yeah.
and it kind of takes off really fast. It's like that infection that you get. You're like, yeah, all right, I like this
so
one.
good. It was really, really gratifying. And with the PvP dailies, like we were
Yes.
talking about, we got the shield, and then I immediately got 3 chests
Yep.
that popped up on the site, and I'm just opening stuff right and left, and it had the little PvP advanced tonics in there
Yeah,
too, so
it
I
gets you
popped 2 of
more-
those, and I got another chest.
Yep, it's pretty
Yeah.
nice. It's
and I need
nice.
to do another match because I'm so close to a piece of Cauticus armor, and I'm almost there.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool.
So that's hopefully helped a little bit. We are going to start next week. We're going to talk a little bit more about working with other players. But for now, just, you know, be open to joining people if they invite you. Be open to, even if there are people on the team that you don't know. And voice chat, I cannot recommend enough.
Oh yeah, voice chat is huge. When you get to that level, or even when you're a beginner, voice
Yeah,
chat
beginner
is
level
so helpful. It's so helpful.
I almost feel like beginner level, I recommend it more because
I would agree.
I was able to, I mean, sometimes people had to just give me really quick things because I didn't know what to do.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think
And
like
that helped.
we've had the same vent channel, like my little group of friends, for like
Have you really?
15 years, and
Oh, that's so cool.
And we've always gone to the same place for any game we play. We always meet up, and it's always been super fun whenever
That's
we talk to each other.
fantastic. Oh. All right, so next week we will dive in a little bit more, and then we're going to start looking at specific professions and start digging into those and help you guys start working on those.
Yeah, no, I'm excited about that part, to give
Yeah.
you guys a little bit more information, a little bit more meat on some of these professions, and showing you guys how to make a build and use the build and test the build and stuff like that, as well as the maps themselves. I think that's going to really help finally bridge that last little gap I think some players have.
Hi.
How's it going?
Hi, welcome to PvP 101, and thank you for coming back, Hugh.
Oh, no problem. I'm excited to do this with everybody.
Steer me through the waters of noob.
Hey man, I've actually received a lot of thank yous. A lot of people who play PvP now.
I am super excited about that. It's a bigger response than I ever thought we were going to have, so I am gratified to hear that.
Yeah, it's really awesome. Thanks everybody who's followed along with us, and also just kind of taking the words and just taking a chance, taking a chance for fun, and have found it.
Doesn't hurt as bad. I mean, I spent all of this time thinking, oh my gosh, I can't. It's scary, and it's not that bad.
Yeah.
I'm having a lot of fun.
Cool.
So we talked 2 weeks ago we talked in the last episode about just player culture and kind of the different kind of players you were going to find. And we're going to branch off of that a little bit this time and talk about some of the challenges that you're going to find and how to deal with them, and whether or not they're actually challenges or,
Yeah.
Well, good ones or bad ones.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting. On my Twitter, I actually messaged out to people who wanted to play, people that are new who wanted to play some PvP, and they actually gave me feedback on this thing. I didn't tell them about what we were doing today, but I thought it was really interesting, some of the things they came up with, and it's kind of the things we're going to be talking about.
Awesome.
So one of the things was they said, they're new. They had the Call the Mist buff, which we had for the ESL that happened on Wednesday.
Oh my gosh, that was so much fun.
Yeah, and so
That
people
felt
were like,
good.
you know what, I'm going to jump in and try some PvP. I've watched some of the PvP 101 stuff, I'm going to jump in and try. And some of the things that happened was when they went into custom arenas to do the practice, and people would stomp them, and they would say things, obviously, and do things like that. Which
Were they nice things?
some of them were, some of them. Actually, it was really interesting, though. The people that they said they actually did the whole thing where they spectated one of the players.
Yeah.
That one of the professions that they were playing, watched him for a few games and actually messaged that person and was like, hey, I see you're running a build that I'm kind of running. Can you give me any tips? And he actually grouped up with that person and played a few games with them and actually kind of gave me ropes. So you would be surprised how, if you actually talk with some people while they're playing or after they're playing and ask them for tips, a lot of people are really receptive to that kind of stuff.
I sort of want to have you make that my homework, because that seems like a very difficult thing for me to do.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to feel kind of ridiculous doing it, but it seems very valuable.
Yeah, no,
Yes?
and it really, really is. Another thing you can do is, if people are getting like really, really toxic, like I said the other time, you can easily just go to play PvP and then go to your game browser and select a different game, a different one of these, spectate it, look to see how the games are playing out, and then jump in if you feel like it's something that will be that you will have a better time in. Again, spectate a couple people, see if they're really good or whatnot, and go from there. The other thing you can do, which I thought was actually interesting, I didn't even think about this, but you can also just go to your chat and turn off map chat. You can turn off say chat, and you can just leave team chat on and just communicate with your team.
Yeah.
Another really good thing that I saw was actually kind of pretty good.
Yeah, if map chat's getting particularly feisty.
It's very simple, just turn it off and then you can go right in and play and just have fun talking with your team and going through those communication channels with those players, because that's who you really want to, the people that you're working with are the ones that you want to communicate really well. So map chat, not super important, but it's nice to be able to say, hey, good game, hey, have fun.
Right.
Those things are really good and it helps the game stay positive.
Yeah, if it gets like that, you have 100% less gross if it
Yes.
comes to that.
Yes. But yeah, it was really awesome to hear people say like they had kind of gone through some of these things in playing PvP and they kind of found outlets to help them out. But yeah, definitely one thing I want to point out though is spectate. Go into a match, go open your browser, find one of the matches, go to game browser. So again, I just click the top button here, play PvP. Go to here, game browser, select one of these matches, one of them that are, has a couple of good players in it, or has some players in it, and then just go in there, make sure it has the spectate icon, which is this little eye right next to it. If it has the eye, if it doesn't have the eye, it means you can't spectate. And just go in there, we'll go jump in one right real quick, and we'll spectate one. Just go and see a player and see kind of what their build is, and I can just kind of look and do that. So like I'm gonna go here. And so, oh yeah, we also have the really awesome camera transitions.
I was like, talk about the camera.
Yeah, so like see right here, I went right over to this person playing warrior. He's got a bunch of signets and he's running a greatsword. So
And
this
that's
was
their build, it's not yours.
That's their build, so I can kind of look to see, okay, so he's doing this and that, and I can kind of watch. Same thing, I can pop over to this person running axe sword. And again, I play warrior, so if I really wanted to learn, I can talk to these guys maybe after the match or just whisper them like, hey, I'm spectating you. I'm just gonna like see what your build is. Maybe I'll have questions and ask them.
I'm having mild panic at the thought of somebody spectating me.
But actually, it was really awesome. I went in and played with those guys, and one of them was like, "Hey, can I just spectate and watch you?" And I was like, "Yeah, please." And then if any questions, just let me know. And you'll be surprised, just even if going in a lobby and asking people, like, "Hey, kind of new to Warrior. Maybe can you guys give me a little help? Maybe something on that." Hop over to Meta Battle, look at some of those builds, read the synopsis of the build. All these things are really nice things you can do to kind of prepare yourself for going in. But yeah, other than that, I mean,
I think if you reach out and don't just stand there silently, you're going to get a good response. It doesn't sound, you've got a few loudmouths in there.
Yep.
And it can be intimidating, but
Yeah.
if you grit your teeth and make yourself do it, which has been the whole premise of me doing this, and I have found it's been 1,000 times better than I thought it was going to be.
Yep.
And if you just grit your teeth, it's going to be pretty good.
And I will say, one of the things I think helps us, both players and as developers, is our community is so nice. Obviously, you have
Really?
those
It
people.
really, really is.
But it is, on a whole, I will say that of all the games, competitive games I've played over my lifetime, I will say that our community is probably one of the strongest and most helpful and not as bad mannered as a lot of the other ones that you actually will get into. So you'd be surprised just reaching out and talking to somebody. You might actually find a new friend, new guild, new people to play with. Because a lot of people, especially in the Heart of the Mist, they're here, they're queuing and all those things. They're here for PvP.
Yeah.
And so being able to help out friends, being able to help new people, to get more people into PvP, a lot of people will be really receptive to that.
Yeah. And I will say that as a pure PvE player, up until we started doing this, our perception, and I'm talking on my behalf and you guys who are watching the show, because you're pure PvE players, we do have a little bit of a skewed perception because PvP culture is a little different than PvE. So we're coming in and looking around and going, this is very different than what I'm used to. And if you haven't played a lot of competitive game or any competitive games, so keep in mind that you're working from that as well.
Well, other than that, guys, just have some fun, play.
It's easier than you would think. There are a couple of experiences that we had talked about in our meetings that I had bumped into because you taught me a couple of things. You had taught me a couple of things that I didn't realize were happening. We had talked about a little bit last time about high-level players farming, and I think we mentioned this before, and you said you might not be getting farmed.
Yeah.
It may just be somebody trying out a new build. So don't freak out, pause, pull back, and find out what the situation is.
Yeah, because a lot of times these guys will come in here and mid-level players or high-level players will jump into just a quick match and just want to try out a quick build, and they may be more mechanically better than you, but a lot of times they're not trying to farm you, they're just testing out a build. They're looking at you as a character, as a profession, and going, okay, I want to try out this build against, this warrior. I want to try this build against this. And a lot of times they'll just be like, hey, I want to just play against this character, and they may see you and be like, okay, that was a good fight, but I think I could do better. I'm going to try to find that person again and keep trying this build out. So again, sometimes it's not as bad as you think. Obviously, there is the cases where it is.
Yeah.
But a lot of times, and I talk to some of my friends and whatnot, they'll jump into this and just want to be like, hey, I just want to play against a warrior. I just want to play against that, stuff like that.
Yeah. But they might, if somebody's wiping the map with everybody and two-shotting everybody, maybe that's what's happening.
Yeah,
But
and then easily just switch a map, spectate a little bit, see if it feels like it's going to be a good experience for you, hop in.
Yeah, so, all right, thank you again. We have a couple of cool things coming up, though, and I will let you are much better at this than me, so.
Oh, man. So this Saturday, if you guys are interested in just watching some PvP, maybe some high-level PvP, we have the WTS qualifiers. So WTS, just in case you guys don't know, is this big tournament we do where we invite out teams from Europe, China, and NA out to a big thing, and they're actually going to be at PAX East. So if you're going to PAX East, you'll be able to see myself and Josh there, and we're going to have the qualifier for the NA teams to see who's going to go to PAX East this Saturday. What time is it at, Josh? Let's make sure I can let them know.
7 a.m. for EU and 2 p.m. for NA.
Thanks, Josh.
Hey, Josh. What's up?
7 a.m. for EU and 10 a.m. for NA. It's going to
Josh
be.
is like, thanks, man.
7 a.m. for EU.
Yeah. Oh, 2 p.m. I'm sorry. 7 a.m. for EU, 2 p.m. for NA. So if you guys want to check that out, please come out and watch. It's going to be a lot of really good matches. We got some, and this is where there's going to be 2 teams that qualify for NA. So it's going to be.
It's going to be pretty good.
It's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight for first and second. So it's going to be pretty extreme.
And what does WTS stand for, Hugh?
World
You like how I
Tournament
did that?
Series. Yeah, no,
There you
sorry,
go.
I didn't think
That's
about
okay.
that. World Tournament Series.
I was kind of waiting for you to say it.
And then as a little side note, during the WTS qualifiers, there's going to be Stronghold teasers, which is the new PvP game mode, both for EU and NA. So there's 2 different teasers going out during those. So if you watch them both, you'll catch them both.
Stronghold is extremely cool.
Yeah, Stronghold, again, new PvP game mode. It's gonna be a lot of fun.
It's going to be awesome.
So
All right.
that's pretty much it, guys.
Thank you very, very much for joining us again, Hugh. And
problem.
thank you for guiding me through the waters of noob. As always, I appreciate it.
It's a lot of fun
And
again.
thank you on behalf of all the other PvE players, because
Yeah.
it turns out I am not the only one who was doing this, and
No.
I am surprised by this every episode.
And again, also just thank you from me to you guys. Thank you for trying. It's really easy for us to talk about it and say the experience we did, but for you guys to get out there and actually try and listen to this, I also appreciate you guys doing that for us.
Totally worth it, even if it was really hard and it took me a ridiculous amount of time to get started. Totally worth it.
Yeah.
Hey, welcome back.
How's it going?
Good. Are you busy having a match, or
No,
can
no,
we-
no. I'm just hanging out in the lobby. About ready to talk about some map stuff for all of our PvP 101ers.
All right.
Pretty excited about this section.
I'm kind of jazzed about getting started on these map guides. So we've kind of gone through the generalities of PvP. I may have just made up a word.
Yeah, it's all
I
right.
don't care all that much.
Welcome to PvP. We make it words up all the time.
Okay, most of those things I can't say on the
Uh,
live stream,
that's
but
also
that's cool.
true, also
That's cool.
true.
I'm comfortable with that. So we've kind of gone through the overviews of PvP, helping you guys that are pure PvE players get into PvP and hopefully make it not feel so overwhelming. You guys that have like tweeted at me and posted on our various Guild Wars 2 channels, telling me that you appreciate helping get into PvP, I really, really appreciate it. I've played with some of you, and it's really, really been a lot of fun. So we're ready to start getting into more detail, and we're going to start alternating back and forth between specific map guides and class guides.
Yeah.
So Hugh is going to take us through our very first map guide this week.
All right, guys. So the first thing I'm going to do is kind of give you just a high-level overview of the first map we're going to go, Forest of Niflhel.
That feels good.
And now I know how to pronounce it. Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and just look for a map. We're going to look for forest, and I'm going to kind of go in there. So here's forest right here. Let's see. Let's go into one without any people in it. So I'm going to kind of give you guys the quick overview. So you can see, obviously, Conquest game mode. It's got our 3 capture points. You have, let me make sure here so I don't pronounce these wrong. We have Henge, Keep, and Mine. So the biggest thing is if you're on red team, your home node is going to be Mine. The far node which is kind of the context usually people will say when they're talking about PvP in general, which is good to get familiar with when you're playing PvP. Is like, hey, I'm going to go home, hey, I'm going to go far, and hey, I'm going to go mid. So red team, Mine is your home, far is Henge, and then Keep would be mid. And then, as well as if you were on blue team, it reversed. Henge is your home, far is Mine, Keep is mid. There's also...
oh, sorry.
Oh, good. I'm sorry.
I found the hard way that it's good to know what they both are, because I was running around with some guildies, and I've got a guildmate who's more well-versed than I am, and we were all on Mumble. And we may have been in this one, but, you know, we're running around, and I took off toward, I don't remember, I took off toward one point, and he was like, no, go to Mine, and I just froze. I was like, is that our home? You're going to have to use a different word. I have no idea where you're telling me to go.
Yes. So it's good to familiarize yourself. Like, see what team you're on, because you get, like, usually when you go into a match, if you go on unranked or ranked, it'll give you like about a minute and a half. So you can kind of different. Oh, I'm on blue team, so I can see this, and then usually you'll call out, be like, hey, everybody, let's have a good game. I am this build. I'm going to be, either helping mid, capping home, or going to harass far.
Yeah.
One thing I wanted to show off too is.
The
some of
match
quick little
starts soon.
jumpy spots that you can get into to kind of jump up to some of these side sections. It looks like somebody's going to want a PvP. Oh man, we got a whole group together now. But I'm going to go ahead and jump into spectator then again. I wanted to show this off, but it's okay. Actually, we'll let these guys play. And
Hold on to your points.
that.
Seize
But the biggest thing you're going to
theirs.
see here is about 10, I think it's like 10 or 15 seconds into the match. You'll see swag camera's transition.
Svanir's
Chieftain,
return.
And Svanir. These are the secondary mechanics of the map. By killing these, you get a aura buff, which lasts 90 seconds, and it gives you a little bit of, not only does it give you team score, which is really important.
Red
it
team
also
wins
gives
a
you,
capture
buff on your
point.
Stats for 90 seconds. So if you get this, you get a little
Just
buff
like
all over the
that,
entire
blue
as well
team
as some
takes a
stats.
capture
So you see
point.
these guys went over and captured home point. See a couple of them are going over to far point, because I was on blue team, and you got a couple people fighting mid. One thing I want to point out though is it's not always best to go get the NPCs right off the bat. It's really good to get a good map control before you transition to get the NPCs. Because I see a lot of people, that's one of the first things they do is they, let me hide in chat real quick on my live. Please, okay. One of
Did
the things
you
they
see
first
that?
do, a lot of players
Red
do,
team
is they
got a
will,
capture point.
go get the NPC right off the bat, but give up a node, essentially. By putting 1 or 2 people to kill an NPC, you usually don't have those players on a node, either getting mid, harassing far, all these things.
Yeah.
And it's actually really important to make sure you don't lose those fights, because that's what happens if you get outnumbered on points. Usually if other people come, you get pushed out of that node, they capture it. It's harder to knock someone off a node and cap it than it is to fight over it, and no one's getting those points, and you can kind of let the fight kind of entail. If you win the fight or lose the fight, you'll get some more points, and you'll get the node as a bonus.
So you're winning fights, but you're not necessarily winning the match.
Yes.
All right. So what if you are? What if you're fighting this guy and the other team comes over there and jumps in the fight?
So yes, that's actually a good point. So if you're
I feel very clever. That's like literally the only thing I know. But go ahead.
Yeah, no. If you get like if you're trying to kill the NPC and someone comes over, it's based on last hit. So if you actually hit if you're the last person to damage it, you take it. You get the points and you get the buff for your team. So it's fairly dangerous. It's fairly dangerous to fight it unless you know exactly. I just lowered it off. You said lower. I just turned it off. Sorry, Josh. But yeah, it's very dangerous to go with these unless you have a good idea of where everybody is and you have decent map presence. Because 25 points, unless it's the winning 25 points, you're putting resources to a side objective that could make you lose a main objective, which is the nodes themselves. Yeah. So really look and risk reward yourself when looking at those things. Like if you're going to call it out, or you're like, hey, we got midpoint and we got home node. Why don't we just jump in and get this NPC that's between the two nodes so I can rotate accordingly. Hey, I need help home, I can immediately go to home and help that. Or I need help mid, I can come to the back side and go through that. That's another thing that we have here. There's actually, after you come out of the base, you can go over here and turn left and go to Chieftain if you're at blue team, or you can kind of take the road and kind of go middle. However, there's also a back path, which is really great for range classes. So I can just swing right here by Chieftain, kind of go to the back path, and call it the back side. And what's great about this, you actually see this Steve kind of doing it right here. Look at that guy. You actually get high ground advantage, which is really good for people. Like I like to play the node, so I play like a super tanky warrior guy, and it's really hard for me when someone's up there shooting because I only have like a longbow or whatnot. But rangers, thieves, mesmers, all really really good when they can kind of drop their AOE's on me, and I can't really react. I have to call for my team or get off node and force them to come down to me.
Yeah, I don't like those guys.
Yeah, so again,
I'm displeased about this.
Just by having a little bit of map familiarity with these things, you can really play according to your class. Like mesmers and thieves can blink up here as well. So knowing that is really important for your class. So that's why, again, really know these maps is really important. The back paths, you got your NPCs, you got your home nodes, far nodes. Knowing the names, the terminology as well, map familiarity can really help you with this map. So I think with that, that's just a nice general overview of this, giving you a little bit of insight of how the map is played, as well as kind of giving you some jargon and whatnot to know what far and home node are.
Let's do one more quick thing before we wrap up,
Sure.
because we were talking about the NPCs,
Yeah.
and we wanted to talk about just the secondary, because each map has something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So actually, that was pretty much it. You just are more eloquent about it than I am.
Yeah. So
Take that and make it fancy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go.
So yeah, the NPCs do respawn on like about I think it's like a 3.5 minute timer. So make sure, and these are not the easiest fights in the world as well. And you can actually practice in the heart of the mist to try and fight these guys 1-on-1 or 2v1 on the actual guys. So if you want to check that out, go explore the heart of the mist a little bit. It's just to the east side of the mist. You'll see all the NPCs there. You can go fight those guys. But it's a little harder to fight, but it really gives you a slight advantage, but not enough to really warrant not communicating with your team and kind of trying to get that solo. Really communicating with your team, playing your 2 points or playing your 3 points, and then getting those at key points in the match for the win, or if someone's trying to get it and stealing it. That's what makes Forest really, really fun and exciting to watch.
This is one that I really, really have a good time with.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite maps. This one, and I honestly really, really enjoy Temple for the buffs as well, which when we get to Temple, we'll talk about those things as well.
Temple, I'm kind of looking forward to that one. I am perpetually lost in Temple. Perfect. I'm like the idiot running around on the bottom level going, where did everybody go?
Well, it's good. I mean, that's why we're doing this, to give everyone just a kind of quick map view, show everybody kind of all the little nooks and crannies and some of the other things, and maybe later we'll go back through and do some really high-level stuff like little jump paths and whatnot. But for now, I think this is a great start, guys. Go in, try a Forest match, try the back paths.
Super fun.
Try the back paths. Communicate with your team. Try using the terminology home, far, mid. Utilize that as much as possible, as well as when it's really good, go for those side NPCs for the win.
I'm really realizing that I'm kind of conditioned. As soon as you said when it's
Ready? No.
yes, that's exactly what I thought.
That's funny.
For heaven's sake. All right.
All right, guys.
Thank you guys for joining us on POI. I will see you on the next episode.
Yeah.
Bye,
Thanks.
guys. Thanks, Hugh.
Bye.
Welcome back, Hugh.
How's it going?
It's about to go a lot better because you're going to help me with my warrior.
Yeah.
And other people, too. So
I'm really excited about this one. So last time we talked about an actual map. Talked about Forest Niflhel, and we're just kind of going over like a quick overview of it, as well as like some of the little side areas and whatnot, just terminology and all those things.
I found myself a lot less lost.
Good.
So thank you.
Perfect.
I appreciated that greatly.
So now we're gonna actually go in and create a build. So a lot of we talked about like the UI and we've done a lot of things, but we never actually created the build using the help of like Meta Battle or actually creating one by hand. Today we're gonna be using Meta Battle. But yeah, so we're gonna actually create the build. This is actually a build I use. We're starting with Warrior, which is the one I know the best. So I think it's going to be easy for me to kind of show you guys exactly what to look for, as well as using Meta Battle as a good tool. So we're going to show you how to navigate Meta Battle, how to create a build, and then how to use the build, set up the build, and then obviously we've already shown you guys how to go into a map, both in practice and unranked, and then using that actual build. So let's go ahead and switch over quickly to Meta Battle. So you can see by just going to metabattle.com, over here is Ranked Arena. So I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And we're going to start with a build that I've been using pretty regularly, which is called Warrior Shoutbow. So I'm going to click on this right here, and it's going to bring up the build. Now the first thing you want to do is kind of look to see what you got. So it's showing right here my first weapon set, my second weapon set, healing, utilities, and elites. And you can see this one with the question marks optional. So I'll kind of get into that in a second. So we're going to be using a sword, Warhorn. We're going to be using a longbow as our second. We're going to be using healing signet. For Great Justice, Shake It Off, the optional, and then Battle Standard. And so over here, which I love, is they actually have, I'm going to zoom this in just a little bit for you guys. It actually has the variations right here on the slot, so skill variations. So it says you can use like Fear Me if you need some an unblockable AoE CC. On my mark for another shout that's a little bit lower cooldown. Balance Stance if you need to get some of that stability. Endure Pain if you're going against a lot of power classes. So this is kind of like you feel this out. Ideally, I'll show you what I run when we get in there. But then it obviously has the elite skills and lets you know like what you can do. Ideally, you want to be using Battle Standard, but you have the options of the other ones, and it kind of gives you like, hey, if you're going to use these things, this is what you're going to get. So let's go ahead and go down a little bit further. So as you can see right here, it gives you this trait setup for you, really nice and easy. And if you highlight over all this stuff, which I love about Meta Battle, it kind of lets you know about all these things. So we're entering Cleansing Ire, Dog and March, Lung Capacity, Quickening Breaths, Vigorous Shouts, Destruction of the Empowered, Inspiring Shouts. And now once I get in game, I'll kind of show you what these things actually give you, but just kind of letting you know what the website gives you. And then it says there's a couple things that you can do to kind of switch up your build here with some trait variations. And then it goes over weapons here at the next thing. Here it actually gives you what sigils you're going to be putting in your weapon. So it says to put in Battle and Intelligence on your first weapon set, which is your sword, and then your second Warhorn. This doesn't really matter which one you put in which slot, because they'll both be triggering as long as you're on those weapon sets. And then your second thing, which is Longbow, it says Geomancy and Doom. Okay? And now runes, which is the last part of the build, is you need the Rune of the Soldier, and then it says to run the Celestial Amulet. And this is actually what I love, and I encourage you guys to come here and read this. And I'm going to be going over most of this when I'm actually in game here in a second. But this is actually how to use the build, and it gives you a nice overview of all the things that you should be looking for, which is great. So if you're having problems fighting this build, if you're having problems or you want to learn this build, this is a great place and a great tool, because this kind of gives you everything you need to know. This is a big wall of text, but honestly, when we get into this, I'll show you a lot of the things in game which will make it easier. All right, so I'm going to let you guys, this is something you're just kind of like your homework for this. Come here and read this, as well as watch this video for stuff that I'm going to be showing you. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and switch back over to the game.
Okay, who does Meta Battle? Let's kind of catch people up on this who are new.
So this is actually builds made by the community, and they update it with the community and go over these things. So you'll see, like, next week there may be a new build on there that someone uses in a PvP match, or someone puts up there. Next time when we go to, we can go lower, and it actually has like good builds, meta builds, which is the one we just used, and then it's like in progress builds. So people are like, hey, this build's really good. I'm going to put it up on the website, and then let people try it out and give me feedback on my build.
Let people judge it mercilessly.
Exactly. But the good thing is you'll see some builds up there where you're like, wow, that actually sounds really fun. I'm going to try that
give it a shot.
build. And then give them some feedback. And you'll be like, wow, I feel like it needs this. And you tweak it a little bit and then kind of add to that whole page, right? Okay, so let's go ahead and build. So actually I'm running Hambo right now. So I'm going to go ahead and switch over to the build. So I'm going to go up at the top of the UI here, hit PvP build. And then I have a hammer and a longbow. So the first thing we're going to do is put the weapons on. So I'm going to click the little left click here. I'm going to go ahead and attach a sword. So I'm going to use my new sword here, my shadow sword. I'm going to click offhand, and I'm going to go ahead and put a war horn. And I have a longbow already slotted, so I don't need to do that. And I just kind of go right down the list. So let's go ahead and use, so it said to use battle and intelligence. I personally like to run, in this slot, I actually run the dodge one. But we're going to go with the meta battle build, and we're going to go battle intelligence, doom, and geo. So battle is every time you weapon swap, you get 2 stacks of might, which is really good because one of the things we're going to be getting in the trait line is the ability to weapon swap faster. So you'll be able to get this pretty much on cooldown. Intelligence makes the next 3 attacks always crit when you weapon swap. So these are 2 weapon swaps. So essentially every time I weapon swap in a sword, I get some more damage, and I get 3 guaranteed crits. Then Doom gives me, every time I weapon swap, I get poison on my next attack. And then Geo, every time I weapon swap into this, I will do a little AoE at my feet that will apply 3 bleeds to enemies for 10 seconds. Really, really good. Okay? Kind of all these are weapon swaps, so it's really making you go with those. And then in here, it said to take soldier, so I'm going to go over here to the search bar and just put soldier. I'm just going to click that. And then over here, instead of soldiers, I'm going to put celestial. So this is done now. This page is ready to go, but there's one more little tab here, which is traits.
Nice.
So I'm going to go ahead and refund the traits, and I'm going to put my traits in. And let's go over what we get here.
I don't think the easy ability to refund traits is ever going to get old for me. It feels so good every time.
So the first thing we're going to do here is we're going to take Dog and March. So Dog and March is great because anytime I get any kind of movement and pairing abilities, I'm going to get regen and I'm going to reduce that duration. So it's going to make me able to stick on people easier and I'm not going to get CC'd as hard. Soft CC. Just cripples, immobilizes, things like that. The next thing we're going to do is Cleansing Iron. This is the bread and butter of this build. Essentially, this is you're going to be getting a lot of condies. You're going to be running on points and supporting your allies. This makes it so every time you use a burst skill, which would be like Flurry and ideally Combustive Shot, you'll cleanse 1 condi for every single adrenaline you spend. Bar. So there's 3, I can essentially maximum clear 3 conditions, 2 conditions, or 1 condition, depending on how many bars of adrenaline I have. Next. Oh, I'm sorry. We got a couple minors here, but nothing too crazy. You get a health when you have adrenaline, and you have a little bit more armor when you go up there. But I really want to talk about this, which is the big one. Shouts heal. With this, every shout I have equipped will heal for 2,208. That's AoE, 5 targets. I'm healing all my allies for this. Really, really good. Next thing, Quickening Breaths. Every time I use a Warhorn skill, I'll actually convert a boon into a condition. That's for allies as well. Over here, we're going to have Lung Capacity, reduce my cooldown on my shouts. Here we can do Destruction of the Empowered. I actually like to do the dodge roll over here, Reckless Dodge. But for meta battle build, I think it used Destruction of the Empowered here. And the last thing is Inspiring Shouts, which makes it every time I use a shout, I get adrenaline. So you can see it all kind of combos together really well. I'm getting adrenaline, I'm spending adrenaline to heal my conditions, put damage, put pressure, as well as I'm healing and shouting, and I'm yelling at everybody, but everybody's loving it. They're getting boots, they're getting
okay
life.
with being screamed at.
Yeah, they love it. So the other thing I forgot to mention real quick is, let's talk about some shouts. For Great Justice, gives me healing, gives me adrenaline, and gives everybody some fury, which is really important, 20% crit chance, and some power. Then I have Shake It Off, which will cleanse a couple condies, as well as break stun for me, give me adrenaline and heal. And the last one here, this is the optional, so you can go with the shout, which is unblockable. So someone's trying to block you like a guardian or something like that, you can actually blow through their blocks, fear them, and heal and do all the other things.
Which is incredibly gratifying, I found.
Yes.
Nope.
Yep. So here we go. So I'm going to take On Your Mark, which is a lower cooldown shout, so I can use it more often, and it'll put 10 stacks of Vuln to give me some more damage. One thing I forgot to mention, actually, is on this rune, the thing here is whenever you use a shout, it removes a condi from an affected ally. So my shouts now not only heal, remove condies on one of them, but now all of them remove condies from everybody around me. So this is just like a really big, kind of tanky, kind of hybrid damage as well as support, huge support. But let's talk about one last thing. Well, before I start walking over to the section, which is the banner. This thing is amazing. Not only does it drop and give everybody fury and might, but it also reses players. It will, if someone's in the down state, you can res in like 5 players instantly with that skill. So in PvP, it's huge. It's just a great skill to use, and it changes the entire battle. If you use it really efficiently, you can res, 2 or 3 people and change that whole fight in an instant. So let's go ahead and talk about the build. So let's go ahead. I'm going to use a couple shouts here and give myself some adrenaline. So we're going to use this. So you can see I have some adrenaline here. I'm going to go ahead and attack. So the biggest thing you're going to use here is your auto attack is going to give you some bleeds and as well as a cripple. So I'm going to be able to stack some bleeds up here as well as kind of stick on people with the auto attack. This 2 skill is a leap finisher as well as a cripple. So again, another way to kind of stick on players. This is your big damage, your final thrust. When you weapon swap into them, you get that intelligence sigil proc. This is the big damage. It'll hit everybody, and if the foe's below 50% life, it will do even more damage. So you want to use this as like your finisher, as well as when you weapon swap, you get the 100% crit chance. Boom, right to face, really, really strong. Also has 3 targets, so if you can get a good amount of people in an area, really, really good. And these are your shouts. Oh, I'm sorry, these are your Warhorn skills. So these will convert a condition into a boon, and it'll also remove, for this shout specifically, will give you swiftness, pretty much on 100% uptime. As you can see, it's 13 seconds of swiftness and 12-second cooldown. Really good. And then last, you have Call to Arms, which the biggest thing you need to know about this is Vigor. The weakness is really important when you're fighting someone to give everybody the weakness, as well as it's a blast finisher. So I can talk a little bit about the bow, but the biggest thing you want to do here is pin down. Pin down is like your skill. If you can hit a pin down, you can win a fight easily, as well as call it out when you're hitting people. If you're in voiceovers, pin down's really, really strong. And then you have Arcing Arrow, which is another blast finisher. But the biggest thing, Combustor Shot not only cleanses your condies, but it puts a fire field down. So one thing you'll see I like to do is I'll get myself up to maximum adrenaline. I'll drop down a fire field.
Okay.
I'll use the 3 skill for burst, so I'm stacking might on myself. I'll weapon swap, use the 5 skill for another blast, jump in the fire field to give myself a fire aura. So I'm constantly kind of like doing all these little self combos for myself. And when I have the intelligence sigil, I can easily just get a nice final thrust, and all that combos really, really easily. But here's another thing that's you can do a little bit higher level is because when you weapon swap into longbow, sword warhorn, there we go, you get the intelligence proc, which means the next 3 hits, no matter what they are going to crit. So one thing that's actually really interesting you can do is you can do like this, and then shoot Arcing Arrow, and then weapon swap, and then it'll crit automatically, and you get 3 immediate crits right back to back because it's the Arcing Arrow still in the air when you weapon swap.
So if you move quick enough.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get a lot of things. So this is it, guys. This is really it. It's on paper, it's fairly simple. Big things to look for, obviously, is you want to land pin down. It has a little bit of a wind up. So you want to pin them down, and then you can kind of go to town on them. Keeping the constant uptime of poison is really good against healing classes, as well as when you're weapon swapping, you're always trying to cleanse condies and use your shouts. Try to keep might stacking with the ability to use Combustive Shot, Arcing Arrow, and the 5 on the Warhorn. You're able to keep up a fairly good amount of might on yourself, as well as for Great Justice, which gives you the might and fury. This build is really good for supporting your allies. It's really good in team fights. It's really good 1v1. It's a meta battle. It's very, very strong. Very, very strong. So I encourage you guys to go to the meta battle page, read up on it, practice it. Combos are really simple. Use, monitor your buffs, monitor your condies, look at your allies, look at your buffs on your allies and whatnot. I mean, it's really good. I don't know. I really enjoy always use healing sig. So I didn't talk about the heal as much, but yes, healing signet is super good on this build because you're using so many other skills. The last thing you want to do is kind of interrupt yourself with a heal, and obviously healing signet's really strong as well. So, but that's pretty much it, guys.
I ended up putting you on my monitor over here, just so I'm like staring at this game. Okay. All right, so what is the best way to do it? Just jump in and start?
Set up the build, come up with their golems, practice a little bit, use a couple of shouts, kind of get the feel of the build a little bit more, right? Drop a couple fire fields, practice doing some combos in them, right? And then go into a match and say like, hey guys, I'm gonna go mid with everybody and just really monitor. This is like, it's funny because this is kind of like that hybrid damage. As soon as you start stacking a bunch of might, you become a damage class. Without it, you're not super, super damaging, you're more support. But with the banner, the shouts, and then being able to stack might for all your allies, you become kind of like a mid-range damage type with a bunch of support. So monitor the health bar on this side. You're going to see your allies, and you're going to see a bunch of condies and their life go down. Utilize those shouts really well. Like the floor for it's really high. It can be as high as you want. You can be really like, for me, you can be really selfish and be like, I'm only going to look at my health and really give myself and cleanse my condies. But when you get to that next level, you can be like, oh, that guy's got a poison that's going to last 20 seconds. I'm going to run over and use a Warhorn skill on him to remove that, give him some swiftness so he can get to the next point, right? That floor kind of raises the more you play it.
Well, and I think while you're learning, probably being selfish is
Yeah.
the thing to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
start simple, yourself first, right? Utilize
Yeah.
the skills. Make sure you're playing efficiently. Watch the other player. Try to land pin down. Try to land final thrust. Try to make sure you're always kind of keeping your condies off and managing your might. From there, then you can take that next level and be like, okay, I'm gonna really make sure when I go in this fight, this person doesn't die because they're my damage, and I'm gonna try to keep them alive, right? And then utilizing, I said, banner is really important. So like knowing that you don't have any stability in this build. So when you start using the banner, it's like a 2-second, 3-second channel. You got to be very careful. Kind of leave the fight a little bit and drop it, and then get back in the fight and heal that person up, right? Yeah. That is what makes Hambo, or I'm sorry, this is what makes Shalbo really, really fun.
I think you're conditioned to say Hambo.
I love Hambo. I'm sorry, that's my favorite build. But this is honestly, I've been playing this a lot, and I've really been enjoying how much support I can give, as well as being able to fight solo at a 1v1 thing long enough to either get someone to come help me or to win that fight by utilizing my cooldowns efficiently.
Yeah. And keep in mind, that's who PvP 101 is for, those PvE players who
Yeah.
are just dipping your toes in the water of the PvP side of the game. So it's okay to be a little bit selfish, and you're going to
Yeah.
screw up and you're going to get your butt kicked
Yep.
for a while, and it's okay. You're
Play
allowed.
play the build. It's a little tanky, and it gives you a little bit of everything you need.
Yeah.
So
thank you very, very much.
Oh, no problem, guys.
All right, so is this my homework, is to go
Yeah.
get smacked around?
Yeah, go pick on.
I'm good at that.
Put on Shalpo, and what we can do is next time I can, if you have any feedback or anything like that, let me know how it went. Be like, hey, Hugh, I was getting CC'd a lot, and what is there I can do for this, or well, I didn't feel efficient in this part, and then we can talk about those things for next time.
Part of my feedback's gonna be it hurt.
I know.
It always is. It hurts so bad.
Awesome.
All right, thank you, Hugh. Thank